Today we're coming to you with a short inspired by Zillow and Salesforce, as in how to suck at email and 3 takeaways on how you cannot suck at email. And this also sort of translates to text messages. But basically I was super inspired to make this quick video because of this article that published on Inman News today, in which a Zillow executive wrote this email to a client, and then I'm going to give you an example of a Salesforce email that I literally got today on the same day, and I'm going to give you a personal example of a failure, plus some really sweet takeaways. Check this out. Jessica Robinson, a sales executive at Zillow, writes this email to an agent and loses her job for it. Let me first say, my assumption is that she's talking to a real estate agent by trying to sell the real estate agent on being part of the Zillow advertising program so the agent could get leads, which leads are just buyers or seller contact information because maybe they pushed some buttons on Zillow and now this agent, in this case Tony, could reach out to those people and possibly, apply for the job to be those folks' agent. But let's get to this email where Jessica writes, "Wow, Tony, after all the, first of all, why would you ever start an email with wow, way to just set an aggressive, as soon as I would read wow, Kevin, I'd be like, whoa, anxiety would go up, heart rate would go up, and I think the last thing you want to do in email and text is increase people's heart rate. I'm jazzed right now if you can't tell already. Wow, Tony, after all the faith and time Bobby and I put into you and your success, ? It's like the sarcastic question mark, the open-ended statement question mark. It's passive-aggressive, super not cool to end a sentence with a question mark when you're actually just making a statement. This email has almost absolutely everything not to do. The very next line, 1-word answer, noted. So she's answering her own question that she sort of hypothetically and hypocritically posed, and then answered it with noted. Another thing I've learned in emails over the time is not to start a sentence with a negative, like don't or didn't. It's usually a great way to kind of reduce or devolve the level of the email. So here's a good one. Didn't want to double space after this one. You could tell she had revised this sentence 4 times and she was too pissed to catch that she had 2 spaces after the 2 here. Didn't want to believe you'd fail, but again, no surprise. Wow. I mean, aside from email etiquette, she's just being a bully at this point. But whatever. I'm trying to extract the email etiquette parts of that, so I won't comment too much on the drama of that. You were a risk. I mean, okay, whatever. Now she's just trying to slam them. That's really not what I'm trying to take away from this. Is obviously don't slam people. Famous Warren Buffett quote, "Tell them to go to hell tomorrow." Anytime you're writing an angry email, Jessica, think about tell them to go to hell tomorrow. Zillow is most definitely not your platform. That is a perfect example right there. And this happens a lot in the real estate business too, or even with contractors or whatevers. People burn their bridges. They get so irate or upset over something that's usually pretty small and not that big of a deal that they make it almost impossible for that customer to try to come back to the company in the future. Look, Tony, this agent here might want to come back and give Zillow another shot in the future, but I think that just sealed the deal that he would never come back if Zillow finds something like that acceptable, which obviously they don't because they ended up firing Jessica, but it still kind of goes to show how much training in emails are people really getting in society. And honestly, I think very little. And that's why I wanted to make this video, is to share kind of some of my opinions on this, and you'll see some really cool takeaways or tricks that I do. Another 1-word answer, of course, disappointed. Another phrase I do not like seeing in emails ever is may I suggest. I mean, obviously she's being a total prick, and I don't want to get into the drama again of this by saying, may I suggest you take up yoga and breathe a bit? Not sure why she's got a comma splice there, but we won't talk about the comma splice. The phrase, may I suggest, almost always, 99.9% of the time, is condescending. Nothing that I can think of that can follow that usually is good. I mean, I'll try to think of some. And I think the reason is, anytime you say, may I suggest, you're again sort of passive-aggressively asking, hey, can I give you a suggestion? Just give the suggestion! For example, if I told a seller, may I suggest we drop the price price. A little bit to me in an email, condescending. Instead of me coming up with that idea, I would rather phrase something like, the market seems to be thinking our price is too high, we might consider dropping the price. Now I have joined the team of the seller to respond to the market, rather than me simply saying, man, you're stupid, you haven't realized yourself you need to take some yoga classes or drop your price? Like, dude, like, may I suggest you do that? Ooh, that, may I suggest, should go on the list of banned phrases for emails. And then, of course, she leaves with this sarcastic happy fourth, which there's no realism in that at all. And good luck ahead without us. It's just, again, closing the door, burning her bridges. Pretty stupid. Obviously, she got fired for that because Zillow agreed that was pretty stupid, but I think there's some learning lessons to take away from that. Let's jump into those, and then we'll go into a couple other examples like Salesforce and my own personal failure I recently had. But before we do that, let me give 3 takeaways. Number 1, the absolute worst thing you can do in the email world of things is not respond. The no reply is like you're just ignoring somebody. It's horrible. And if you haven't figured out how to use the archive button on Gmail yet, you should really consider learning how to archive your mail so you don't miss important stuff and you make sure everything gets a response. Now, number 2, I always recommend never, ever, ever put anxiety-inducing messages into emails or text messages. As in, if you say something like, please do this ASAP, that creates anxiety in people. The word please used to be polite, but now creates anxiety. It's like, well, okay. It's much easier and much better to say, would you mind helping me do this? Now all of a sudden somebody else wants to help you out, as opposed to somebody doing you a favor because you said please and then made a demand or commanded them to do something as soon as possible. So ASAP, I have ruled out of my email language. I don't say please in my emails because to me, it actually induces more anxiety than it takes away by trying to pretend to be polite, because it's usually followed with a command. For example, please confirm receipt. How about just ending it with, would you mind letting me know this email didn't go to spam? Would you mind letting me know you got this email? It's much nicer. You're asking for a favor rather than demanding by commanding. It's the same as the phrase, can you do something? Just, would you mind? It's so simple. Take anxiety out of emails. When people read their emails, the last thing they want is more stress. And by inducing stress on other people, the odds are they're gonna either snip back at you or they're gonna ignore you. So wording your emails well is really, really important. All right, so now we talked about Jessica at Zillow who got fired. We just gave you some tips that I instill in my emails. Let me give you an email that I got today. So this was great. I got this email from Salesforce today because I had inquired about a product. And first of all, this drove me nuts. I couldn't email them. I had to call them to get an email address that I could email my question to. I don't have time to sit on the phone and be sold. I just have a question about their product, and there was no way I could fill out even a form to send them this inquiry. So I called them, got an email. I emailed them my bullet point questions. It was really, really, really simple. And then the salesperson I had emailed to was covering for somebody else, so she forwards the stuff to the other person. Well, this is just a communication nightmare. So then the second person gets in touch with me and goes, hey, let's schedule a phone call. I'm like, I don't want a phone call. I just want my answer. Like, it ain't that hard. That drives me nuts. Like when people just try to force a call on you. And then they say, okay, we'll send you to the support team. So they send me to the support team, but they forward my information, but not my questions. So 9 days later, today, I get this email from somebody who also happens to be named Jessica. The email is, hi Kevin, are you still looking to connect with Salesforce? If not a big deal. Let us know. What? What kind of sales email is that? I mean, they're like, hey, do you still want us to answer your question? If not, don't worry about it. I'm going on a coffee break. Like, I don't really care about you anyway. Like, what training are people getting out there? This is embarrassing. And, and then you kind of end with the passive command again. Let us know. How about you answer my question? I don't like you now. You're trying to pretend like you're following up with me. then you're basically saying you don't care if I reply or not, but then you're demanding that I let you know if I care or not about you not caring about me. Please, people, if you follow this channel, don't suck at email. Like, be nice to people. Now, I'm gonna give you an example though, where in my opinion, I made a little bit of a faux pas. Property management company I work with regularly referred me a client via email and said, hey, client, here's Kevin Paffrat's contact information. He works for Meet Kevin. He's a broker at meetkevin.com. Here's his phone number, this, that, and the other. Kevin, here's the information, the property address. So the property is currently rented to a tenant. Can you connect with them and see how you can help them? I am very, possibly sometimes overly friendly, and I think this is an example of that, but I'm sincere about my friendliness too. I'm not like insincere, that's the worst. Insincere friendliness. I replied to the email within like 3 minutes, and I was super excited because I love being fast at replying to emails, especially when it's something like this where I really want to make sure that property manager's happy. I want to make sure a new client knows like they're gonna get taken care of, because in general, high priority emails get very, very quick response times. The only thing that kind of gets slower response times are usually things where I actually have to work up a longer reply, like a response to somebody's request. And I usually reply to those and go, hey, thanks for this. I'll get back to you, by this time and date, something like that. That way I'm setting the expectation for folks. So anyway, I replied to the email right away and said, absolutely, I'd be happy to help. Talk soon. Because the normal step 2 is the seller's reply, or that client replies to the email and goes, oh, that's awesome. Hey, Kevin, these are our questions. What does it cost to sell the property? What's the property worth? So they didn't reply. So I assumed they were busy. And after 3 days, I followed up with them, and I sent another email and said, it was on a Sunday that I followed up with them of all things. I go, hey, just FYI, if you want to catch up after work hours for a phone call or whatever, I'm more than happy to catch up. We could also email, whatever's most convenient for you. They didn't reply to that email either. So then the property manager follows up with them and it's like, hey, how come you're not responding to Kevin? And they reply to go, oh, well, he made it seem like he was only interested in helping us after work hours and it just didn't seem professional. I'm like, what? No, like I responded to you within 3 minutes during work hours, inviting a call and conversation, like here I am, like I'm ready to help, and then said, hey, like I'm also available, obviously on a Sunday, because that's when I sent the email, or after hours, we can talk on the phone, we can email, like whatever you want. I'm game. I want you to know I'm happy to help. So apparently they wanted like a formal introduction email from me in terms of all the things that we do and basically ask them what questions they had. And so I failed there. I suppose I need to consider in the future that if I respond quickly like, hey, thanks so much, happy to help, maybe I need to follow up with another email after that and go, hey, just a heads up, here's some common questions. A lot of people ask me, what do you think the property is worth, Kevin? What should we do? I'd be happy to talk about these. Do you have any particular questions in mind? And maybe I should have had an actual question that they could have responded to. So definitely had a little bit of a failure there. I'm not perfect either, but I'm always trying to learn about email etiquette. Let me know in the comments below what you think not only about these scenarios here, but other email and communication tips and advice that you've got, because it's a big topic, especially going into the email and text world that we're already in. Thanks.